How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good. We're excited to have you today. We're going to wait a little bit to have some people join us. We had quite a few people, thanks to some great social media posting out there. So we had quite a few people that were interested in this watercolor class. I'm going to start just by introducing myself. I'll be your moderator today. I'm Jeannie Breedy. I'm the marketing director for the North American market for arts and crafts for Winsor Newton and Cole Art brands. And I'm really interested to see everyone's posts. I want to let everyone know that we sent an email out, and another one will be coming through with some more details to give you some prep for this class, particularly a sketch, which is going to be very helpful. It'll be coming through shortly, we hope. In any event, Shailene's going to take us through a lovely watercolor artwork where she's going to make some rosebuds. And I just want to encourage everyone, stay along, but no stress. The video will be recorded. The class will be recorded and available a day from now. And I'll give you some more details, and I will hopefully give you all you need to keep up or just observe and watch it later. So I think we're going to be good. I think we're going to start taking it away because we have over 400 with us now. So I think that's a good amount. So why don't you take it away, Shailene?
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. This is kind of cool. I've never done anything quite like this. So thank you for being here for the journey. But I am Shailene Louise, and I'm a watercolor painter from New Mexico. I'm born and raised here. I lived in Nashville for about 7 years. Met my husband over there, and then we came over here and got a house and 2 dogs, and life is good. So this class today is, we're calling it Little Rosebuds. And basically we're gonna go from sketching out our composition to, we'll talk about sketching, and then we're gonna talk about some color mixing. As you can see here, we're gonna talk about how to use that color to create form and dimension and just make your painting pop off the page a little bit. I tried to make this class geared towards beginners, but it might be a little bit challenging. There are a couple kind of tricky parts in it. So I just want to encourage everybody to give yourself a lot of grace and leave perfectionism at the door. Do whatever you can because we do have a limited amount of time. So we're just going to do the best we can. But if I'm going too quick, just holler at me in the comments and Jeannie will let me know to slow down a bit. So I think, Lindsay, we can switch to the above view and I'll talk about supplies for a second. All right, so let's see here. I love supplies. You can never have enough. Okay, so this is the Winsor & Newton cold press 9x12 paper, 140 pounds. I love the cold press because it has a really lovely kind of rough texture. I don't know if you can tell, but if you don't have the same paper, that's okay. Just use whatever you have on hand. I'm using the Winsor & Newton pocket palette that I think this is called the Sketchers pocket set. So this is the Cotman line of paints. And today I'm not actually going to be using all of them. I'm going to be using Alizarin Crimson, Ultramarine, Sap Green, and what is this? Yellow Ochre. Besides that, I have a few different brushes here. I think I maybe just listed 2 that I would use, so I'll stick to my word. I'm using a size 6 Cotman round brush and a size 3 round brush. So this larger one is going to hold a bit more water, so it's going to be great for when I need to cover a lot of space. And then the smaller one is better for, you know, finer detail. And I will be sketching with an F pencil. It's okay if you don't have an F pencil. If you just have like a number 2 click pencil, that's totally fine. It doesn't need to be anything fancy today. Besides that, I have a palette here for, hold on one second. I have a palette here for mixing colors. This is from Sylvan Clayworks. One of my good friends made this for me. But I'm gonna just clear this off so I have some room to mix colors. And we're going to start sketching. So this part, I am not sure how this will go. I'm hoping this will be fairly quick, but sometimes getting the sketch right can take a little bit of time. So I'm going to make sure this is in the frame for you. It's good there. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and kind of free sketch this, and you go ahead and sketch along with me. I just really want to encourage you guys, it does not need to be perfect. If you only end up getting one little rosebud and a leaf painted or sketched in this time, that's totally okay. You don't have to do all three, but just try the best you can. The beauty of flowers is that even if they're not perfect, it's still gonna look like flowers because flowers aren't perfect. If you were doing a self-portrait, it'd be a little, a little different. So I'm starting with my top flower up here. And I'm going to go straight up here. I don't know if you can see this. My pencil's fairly light, so that's why I printed this really dark one for you to see. I'm just painting or just sketching right here, just these petals at the top. Okay. And then I'm going to find this kind of junction right here and draw another stem coming out to the right. Drawing this leaf. And you'll notice it has a little bit of a turn. That petal kind of folds in on itself. If you feel a little bit intimidated to try drawing that, you're welcome to just make all of your leaves look like this. But if you feel confident to try something a little bit more of an advanced drawing, then you are welcome to try that. Another little leaf coming off this way. And I'll be honest with you guys, sketching is my least favorite part. And it's kind of funny because I first started off like in high school and middle school. I used to love drawing and I thought that I was no good at paint. But now that I use paints, I think that drawing is the most uninteresting part. Just because I like color. All right, so let's see here. One more leaf up here. This big one right here. Drew that little part that curves in. Okay, now I'm going to draw this floral branch that's going off to the left.
Shalene, I just want to say that lots of people are from all parts of the world are joining us. And I just want to ensure everybody that Shalene's class is going to be recorded. And you could find it at michaels.com/classes, which I'll post here shortly. There was an email that you received, and you'll get another one with this particular rendering of the flowers. So just as she said, just go free flow and go along with it. Everybody seems, we have a lot of people that are joining us and following along and creating along, I should say.
That's what I like to hear. It's funny because most of the times I've done like interactive classes, it's been in person and it's very quiet where I am. It's hard to tell that there's people here.
I know they are. Everybody's very attentive. There's a lot of people. It's great. It's great to see everyone. Like I said, I'll help keep you engaged.
Okay, I'm painting or drawing. I keep saying painting. I'm drawing this big leaf down here at the bottom. And I'm drawing that little bend. I like to draw bends in my leaves because I just feel like it gives it that little touch of realism, gives you an opportunity to make the painting just come to life a little bit more. All right, so I have this side finished, still working on the one that is going off to the left. I'm drawing just a few leaves here. underneath the base of the flower. And then with petals, I go up, kind of ruffle that top just a tiny bit, and then come down. And then another one right behind it. And down. And then that tiny little petal that's just kind of peeking out from behind the other two. Now I'll draw the bud right here that is still closed, hasn't bloomed yet.
Actually, we're getting some people that are trying to keep up, so we're just gonna maybe just kind of reiterate, give them a little breather, show them some more of that technique so they can catch up a little bit.
Will do. And as a reminder, if you guys, if I get to the painting stage and you've only finished maybe these two going this way, I would encourage you to just keep following along. And then, like Jeannie was saying, this class will be available later. So maybe you can finish that sketch and then do this part a little bit later. I know 3 flowers is kind of a lot, but we'll try our best.
Right, now people are asking exactly that. You could just do one of the leaves, one of the buds, and you could add to it.
Are people asking if they can do that, or if asking if I?
And I'm just suggesting that they can, just on base what you said.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and as far as the tracing, why don't you give them some ideas about how to trace? Because there's
we touched. Okay, so yes, in your email, you're going to get this, you know, this image. And what I would recommend doing if you feel kind of not super confident in your drawing skills, which is totally fine because it takes a little bit of time, what you can do is print this out just with regular printer paper, hold it up to the window, and then hold your watercolor paper over it, and then trace it. And that sunlight that's shining through will kind of make it like a light box, so you can just easily trace over those lines. If this was an in-person class, I would have had you do that first, but you know, we gotta do what we can. So I'm gonna give a little bit more time. I don't wanna rush this, but yes, if you only got these 2 stems here, like that'll be a really beautiful painting as well. Just because I have a little bit of extra time here, I'm going to thicken out my stems just a bit. You'll see that I have them kind of thick over here, and over here I just did single lines. So
Charlene, one other thing is just everyone has varying levels of skill. You're doing great in terms of the pace. You know, as I said, it's being videotaped and there's going to be references. But if you could just perhaps take it just ever so slightly louder, because you have a very gentle voice, and just a tad bit slower.
My husband literally just told me before I started this, he's like, you need to make sure you speak up. You got a really quiet voice.
Yeah, speak up and
I'll try.
Good.
All right, so I'm thickening up all of these lines. You definitely don't have to do that as well, but it kind of helps me to just have a really good reference before I start painting. I feel like I find that I'm a lot more confident when I start painting if I do have that sketch just as dialed in as I can. And I also want to mention that as I'm looking between these two, like my sketch is not exactly like this. I see a lot of variations and little things that aren't exactly the same. So don't be hard on yourself. But yes, I'll wait for a sec. I just want to make sure we get, you know, everybody to a good spot to start painting. Yeah. And also I do have this little eraser on hand. I have no idea what eraser it is. It's just a little black ball, but it works pretty well. And as I mentioned, you can use any pencil you have. I don't want the type of pencil you have to ever stop you, but using an F pencil, it does really help for when you erase at the end, if you choose to erase after you finish painting. Using the F pencil is really great for being able to lift out some of those pencil markings. But you always got to make sure that whenever you do erase your pencil markings, your painting is totally dry, or else you could really ruin it, which I've definitely done before. So I think what I'm going to start doing, I'm not going to start painting yet, but I am going to start getting some colors ready. If it feels like that's we're in a good place to start doing that. So I mentioned which colors I was using was Alizarin Crimson, Ultramarine, Sap Green, and Yellow Ochre. If you have different colors on hand, if you have a different type of red, different blue, green, yellow, don't feel like, you know, you're just going to turn out bad or anything like that. Like, just use whatever you have and just enjoy seeing what color combinations you can come up with. So I really, really enjoy, I really enjoy mixing colors. I very rarely just use the colors exactly as they are right off my palette, but just for the sake of seeing what it looks like, this is Sap Green. I'm going to do a little swatch up here. If you would like to do your swatch on a different paper off to the side, if you don't want to ruin your main painting, you're welcome to do that, but I kind of like the look of having the swatches. It kind of takes the pressure off the main painting when I have the swatches, because I feel like it kind of looks like it's a painting study, which it is. This is for learning, not necessarily for selling in a gallery. Okay, so there's a little swatch of my sap green. I am going to do a mixture of sap green and yellow ochre, which is a very warm, kind of brownish yellow. And I'm going to do a little swatch right there. So as you can see, that's a very kind of yellowish green color, which I really like. I'm going to try another mixture. I'm going to try doing green and I'll do ultramarine blue. And so mixing these two colors right here is going to create a very cool kind of evergreen sort of, I don't know, bluish green tone, which I really, really like that color.
So Shalene, people are asking, so you're putting the colors down and you're mixing them as a point of reference. So all the colors are on the supply list, but if you could just reiterate which ones are the blended colors. So the first one is sap green, I believe.
Sap green, yeah.
And the second one is a combination.
I'm going to actually see if I can make that clear. So that's green. This one is sap green plus yellow ochre. This one here is sap green plus, what is that? Ultramarine.
Right.
Ultramarine
That's
blue.
great.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay, where's my brush? Okay, so I'm going to actually do one extra green mix. I'm going to do all three of them. And some painters would be really hesitant to do this because when you start mixing a lot of colors, colors can become muddy and a little bit desaturated, and it's not everybody's thing. Personally, I actually really enjoy a more desaturated, muted palette, and I find that the more colors I mix together, the more I can kind of get that soft, dreamy kind of color and look. So it's probably just kind of like mixing green with brown is kind of what I'm ultimately kind of getting here. So just a little bit more of the green there. This process is sometimes a little bit more intuitive to me. I don't often think a whole lot about the colors I'm mixing. I just kind of grab and mix and grab and mix. So I don't always know exactly what colors I have. So this is actually really good for me to slow it down and write it out. But I do really like that color right there. So that is sap green plus yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. So I think that I actually like this color the best. But if you prefer any of these other colors, if you want to just keep this simple, just keep using the sap green. That's a really easy way to just get going. If you feel a little bit more confident to mix colors, then I would, encourage you to try mixing all three of them or mixing just two of them. But I'm actually going to get a little color puddle ready, ready to paint with. And this mix here is going to be, I'm going to use quite a bit of water in it. So I'm just going to dip into that little paint jar and then just mix a ton of water because I want to have a lot of paint to work with. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to cover the entire, all of the leaves and all of the stems, okay?
Shalene, we're getting some really favorable feedback about the color mixing, and you're giving people a lot of confidence. And she's giving you lots of guidance. So there's several different colorations that you could use here. So it's your preference. So you could use as many as you'd like. But Shalene, where will you start? Like, are you going to take the most? Anyone could start with just using sap green or any combination of those colors, correct?
I would use sap green to start.
Yeah.
But if you feel confident, like mix a couple of them. It's not too hard. You just want to make sure that you have a really even kind of 50-50 mix over here on your palette before you start painting. And so you just take as much as you want, bring it over here and just make sure that you have a lot of water in that mixture. And what I'm going to do now is, because I am right-handed, I'm going to start on this left side of the painting and I'm going to slowly kind of cover the leaves and stems as I go this way. So this technique here is called wet on dry. I have a very wet brush. I don't know if you can tell how wet this is, but I have a very sopping wet brush. And I'm just going to start layering that paint very smoothly, very controlled onto, I'm starting with this bud here. And I'm just going to do a really even layer, okay? This part is, you can kind of mess up if you maybe have too much water on your brush, because you definitely don't want it to drip onto the paper. And we want to do a layer that is not super wet. If you have too much water on your paper, you can just dab your brush into it, just lift out some of that color into your bristles. The brush is great for dropping color and is great for lifting color, whatever you need in the moment, okay? So start working on this leaf down here at the bottom. A little more paint.
Actually, we have an interesting question. Someone is referring to your paint puddles, and how do you maintain that consistency of those paint puddles? Like, because you're going to go across this whole page. You keep it looking consistent or somewhat consistent in color and pigment.
And honestly, I'll be honest, it doesn't always look consistent. There's often times where I'll drop color right here. Like I can even see it right now. This mixture right here has a little bit more pigment than this one does. And I'm not super worried about that because I don't need it to be perfect by any means, because, maybe this one is slightly more in shadow. But the trick is to always just make sure you have a good amount of water, good amount of pigment, and just try and keep that stock, keep your inventory full, if that makes sense.
Right. It looks great. And you're right. It's just as it emulates nature. There's no perfection. Everyone's going to look different. And you could always, another thing too, after you go, you can always go back, right?
Yes. That's what we will do that in a little while. So I'm going to just draw these stems.
One other question that you're getting, and I know you're using a Cotman sketcher box, and it has all of the colors that in this particular set, but if you were to use tube color, you would more or less put the colors on the palette and you dilute them.
Well, you can see that right here I have some dried out tube paints that I thought about scratching off before the class, but I was like, no, this is good stuff. I don't want to throw.
Okay.
But yes, I would do the exact same thing. Sometimes I'll take a squirt bottle and just squirt some water on it just to activate those colors. But as you can see, all you got to do is just bring water to whether it's the little Sketchers palette or the tube paints. I kind of use them in a very similar way. And are we doing okay on time, Jeannie?
Everything seems to be fine so far. Someone asked, this is kind of an interesting question. They're asking if they could use watercolor pencils.
Yes, that's a very interesting question. I have some watercolor pencils myself. I don't use them as a like main paint source, but I do use them sometimes for adding tiny details afterwards. But I mean, I think that you should definitely try. That'd be a really cool experiment. It'd probably be a pretty similar approach, I would imagine, too. You just kind of do a really light layer and then bring some water over and then smooth that color out.
Right, right. That's exactly, that sounds great. And another thing too is this is just guidance in terms of the color, you know, and even the technique in terms of the buds. Like there's someone asking, you could certainly make whatever shape that,
Absolutely.
that you're confident with using.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of painting botanicals, is they just come in every shape, form, color, size. It's just awesome. There's so much variety.
The recording is going to be available for the class. For those of you, there was an email that went out. Another one will be coming out as well with with all the details, the supplies, the sketch, for you to and then as a reference. And the class will be available 24 hours after we complete it. It'll be recorded, and I put in the feed, but I'll put it down again at michaels.com/classes. You go to the Michaels homepage under classes and events, it'll be there.
So not a lot to explain in what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to keep my layers even and just try and do a really nice smooth wash of color. I call this my underwash. So this is the lightest layer that I'll be doing, and I'll be adding darker colors later, but it's very important to me that I get my first layer just nice and smooth. You know, it might be smarter to use a smaller brush for some of these stems if you want your stems to be a little bit thinner, but if you want your stems to be thick, you could keep using the size 6 or whatever you're using. But yeah, just keep that in mind that the smaller the brush, you have slightly more control. And this one is great because with these larger leaves, it's great because I can just cover like that. I can cover quite a bit of space fairly quickly because there's so much water in these bristles. And
Sorry, Shalene, we're getting lots of, she's still working with the sap green. We're still going through all the leaves. Someone asked about, you know, they kind of got ahead of us. You're going to go through in terms of the buds,
yeah,
in terms of how much white space to leave. And then one other question, which I know you'll bring up in the end, is because you ever so gently sketch this onto the paper, you will then be able to erase it, even though you painted on it.
Yes. And yes, even if I had drawn it really dark, which this pencil doesn't really allow for a super dark sketch, but usually even if I totally paint over it, even a few different layers, it's usually fairly easy to lift out those pencil markings. And I will also say just my own opinion for what it's worth. I actually like the look of pencil markings sometimes underneath paintings. And I like that just because it's not digital art, it's handmade art. And so I have a couple of paintings from my great grandma who was a watercolor painter here in my home. And I'll look at them up close sometimes and I'll see her sketch underneath the watercolor. And I just love it. I don't know why. It just makes me happy. It shows that it's a real person who made it. So don't be afraid of pencil markings.
Yeah, it makes it feel a little authentic. And you're right, it's very forgiving and it just gives it some character.
Absolutely. It's kind of, sometimes I feel like that you kind of expect it with watercolors. Okay, so I am feeling pretty good about how that's looking. So I think that I'm now going to mix some pink color options. And as I did with the sap green, you are welcome to just use whatever red you have on hand, whatever pink you have on hand that you like. You don't have to make it as complicated as mine is, but okay, let me see if I want to keep this sketch here just in case anybody still needs it. So I'm going to do a little swatch of just pure alizarin crimson in its natural form. It's a very, very bold, beautiful color. Okay. There we go. So very, very kind of traditional pink. I'm going to now mix it with, yellow ochre again, because I just really like that color. If you want to mix it with Winsor yellow or lemon yellow or cadmium yellow or whatever you have on hand, try it. Just see what cool combinations you can come up with. But I'm going to try the yellow, and I believe this is going to turn it into like a peachy pink tone. And when I want to drop a little extra color, instead of just rubbing it on the paper, I will drop it like this. So I'm dabbing it, and in doing that, I'm just dropping a lot of extra color. And I'm doing that because I want to see it in its like a strong color value. You know, if I do a really light layer, it's going to dry really light. So let's try alizarin crimson. Let's see, can you see this okay? Yeah. So let's try alizarin crimson over here with, can you guess? I'm going to do a little bit of this ultramarine. And if you know basic color theory, you'll know that pink and blue equals purple. So if you're a purple lover, this is a cool way to get a different purple variety.
Shalene, are you using you're using Cotman brushes. Are you using, is that your number 6 that you're using?
Size 6.
Yeah.
Probably can't read that. You can use whatever color or whatever size of brush you want to use for your swatches. That doesn't matter too much. For me, it's more about if I'm covering a lot of space, as I was with these leaves, bigger brush. If I'm doing fine details, smaller brush. Less water, and you have a little bit more control with a brush with less water, because the more water you have, the less control you can have. Okay, so now I'm going to do, as I did over here, I'm going to mix all 3 of those colors. And I think it's very important to note that red plus blue plus yellow equals brown. Those 3 primary colors are going to make brown. So I'm going to do a mixture of all 3 of them, but I'm going to make sure that alizarin crimson is the strongest color in the bunch because I don't want a brown swatch. If I was painting a tree, maybe. But let's see here. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the blue and a tiny bit more of that yellow. And as I mentioned with this mix here, it creates just a bit more of a desaturated, muted, soft version of alizarin crimson. So let's see here. I could mix colors all day. It's so much fun. You can get so many varieties. Even with just this tiny little palette, I could get pretty much every color I could possibly want because you just mix until you find something. So I'm going to try actually, just because I think that does look a little bit brown, I'm going to try a little bit more alizarin crimson. And I'm just going to put it, actually, I'm going to put it right here next to this original swatch because I want to show just how subtly different it is when you add that blue and that yellow to the mix.
Shailene, once again, if you could just kind of reiterate some of the color combinations, just in terms of the yellow that you added in, was it?
Will do. Okay, so this one was alizarin crimson, this top one. The one below it was alizarin crimson plus yellow ochre. This purple option was alizarin crimson plus ultramarine blue. This one was all three, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue. And then this was all three as well, but heavy on the alizarin crimson, okay? So, okay, so now I'm going to, I think I'm going to switch to the size 3 brush. And this part is fun, but it's a little bit advanced, okay? So pay close attention to what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to, this is all dry, so I'm good. I'm going to start over here on the left. I'm going to drop color, just drop it along the top edge. So I'm not brushing it on, I'm dropping it on, okay? And I'm doing that because I want a really strong mix of color. I'm going to slightly just go down where I had traced the petals down, but I'm not going all the way down. Somebody mentioned earlier, maintaining the white. This is how we do it. We don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
And the color you're using again, Shailene?
This one right here, alizarin crimson with a touch of yellow ochre and a touch of ultramarine blue. If you prefer the alizarin crimson, if you just want to keep it simple, please just do that. Don't feel like you got to get all fancy with the mixing, but it can be fun. So I'm going to set this brush aside. It still has pigment in it, but I'm going to set it aside for just a minute. And then I'm going to grab my size 6 brush. I'm going to rinse it off. So I'm cleaning it off in water that's kind of murky, but technically I'm still calling it clean water. And then I'm going to blot it on my paper towel. So it is now a damp, clean brush, okay? So I'm going to use that brush to just very gently touch those edges and very gently pull that color down with a lot of control, okay? Blot that color, and then you can try it again. Just pull it down just ever so slightly. This is the part where it can be easy to cover this white too quickly if you're not careful. So if you need to lift out some color, if you used too much pink and you want to lift it out, just clean off your brush, lift it out just a little bit, blot it, lift it out just a little. As I mentioned, your brush is so functional in so many ways. It doesn't just drop paint, it lifts paints, it manipulates paints, it smooths paint, it scrubs, does all kinds of things. So using that clean edge to just slowly manipulate that color down, create a subtle gradient from pink to white, okay? Now I do think that's a little bit harder than it looks, so try your best, but know that it might take a little bit of practice. Or maybe it's easy first time, but it might take a little practice. I'm gonna hold that up so you can see how that looks up close. Okay.
That's a great view. Shailene, would you mind bringing that back up so we could get a closer view of the colors of the palettes? If you could just go to the other side, the pinks.
Absolutely.
So your colors are alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue. Those are the three, and that they're combinations of those are what you're using. And you're
Yes.
using the three together right now to start with the primary petal
It's
color, correct?
Here, and
Yep.
you'll see that that looks a lot lighter than that. And that's just because I dropped a lot of color, but then I pulled it down. So later on, I'm going to come back if we have time, hopefully, and I'll add another layer and do that same thing so that we can get it to that deep, deep color just on the tips, okay? But I have to work in layers to get there. I never get there first paint layer. It takes subsequent layers. Okay, so I'm going to just keep on moving. I'm going to go over to the other side, drop color. I accidentally used the same brush, the size 6, but that's okay. It happens. So drop that color. You can trace those lines a little bit down if you want to, so we have that impression of the petals, the definition. All right, so now I'm going to actually use that size 3 brush, clean it off, blot it, so I have a damp, dry brush, and then gently manipulate that color down.
So you're pulling the color down rather than adding more color.
Yep, using the color that's I already dropped off.
It's very delicate, it looks really pretty.
Thank you. It's a really fun technique. And I like to see subtle gradients in my paintings just because you don't see a lot of hard lines in botanicals in nature. You see a lot of smooth, subtle, dark purple to light purple or dark green to light green. And when you get those strong contrasts, like we're gonna have dark, dark tips and then the light bottoms of these petals, I think that just gives painting so much more interest and dimension. All right, so my last flower here. This one I only drew 2 petals. So it's our little guy. And then I will use this other brush that I have on hand, blot it, clean it off, and then very gently urge that color down. If you get too much color in your brush and you're starting to just pull way too much, blot it off. Too much color. Okay. So class is going quick. So I'm going to move on to back to my leaves.
That's right. So we're going to go to a layer of green, and then we'll finish off with another layer of the pinks.
And I'm just going to put this in frame because I want you guys to see. This is one I did yesterday, but it has all the same colors. And you can see how how crazy it can look like when you just do layers and layers. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do another layer of sap green. Another little dip into the sap green, I should say. And this one, I want this color to be strong. So we're gonna have water in it, but we're also gonna have like a ton of color in this mixture because I want it to be darker. So this one was very light, very watery, kind of transparent. This one, whatever color you're using, whether it's just sap green, whether you're using one of these mixes, whatever you're doing, just make sure it's a strong mixture of color, okay? All right, so taking a minute here, getting that color right. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this bud, okay? So what I'll do is I'm gonna just trace the bottom edge of it, create kind of a U shape. And then same thing for the little bulb at the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same technique I did up here for the petals. Damp, clean brush, and then use it to gently smooth that color, okay? This is a little bit of a tricky technique. As I said, just give yourself grace if it doesn't look exactly how you want it to look right away. It takes practice, really, really does.
Shirley, you give some really nice feedback.
Awesome.
You know, your pace is good. You know, there is going to be a lot more, as she said, it's much more saturated green to give that dimension. And then you'll do the same to bring back the color of the petals, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to just demonstrate right here what I'm going to do on every single leaf if I have time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the vein of the leaf and just do a really strong dark vein, okay? And then I'm going to trace the outer edge. That can be a little bit tricky if your hand has got a little bit of shake in it. If it does, just do little lines, little dashes like this. Okay. Then using damp clean brush, I'm going to smooth out those lines because as I mentioned, we don't see hard lines like this in nature. We see soft gradients. And by doing this, you'll notice that it's starting to look like it's bubbled up just ever so slightly. Do you see how it doesn't look like it's just one-dimensional anymore? It's starting to create that form and just a little bit of bend in that leaf.
Shailene is using, someone's asking about your watercolor paper. You're using Winsor & Newton watercolor, 140 pound, it's cold press. Right? And when you brought it up close, yeah, there you go. 9x12 sheet, it's a spiral. When you brought up close, you could really see the dimension of the paper.
Yeah. And I like to use 9x12. I don't know why, it just seems to always be my go-to size. Maybe a lot of watercolor papers just come that size, but I think it's a great size to work with. Okay, so I'm going to hold that up one more time. You can see I just kind of worked that color into the center of these leaves. I kept the centers nice and light. And then having that contrast of dark to light is what, like I said, creates that form, gives it just a little bit of a realistic look to it. And I will keep on going. I got this one wet, so I'll just use this brush. So I'll do that same exact technique right here. So go along the center and then both of the edges, drop in quite a bit of color. And then using my alternate brush that's clean, I will use it as my little scrubber and then create that soft gradient.
Shailene, another question coming your way regarding your technique is fabulous. So people are enjoying it, it's very relaxing. If they go back to this piece of artwork afterwards, so they want to make it a little more vibrant, can they go just drop on another level layer of these colors and then do the same technique?
You guys, I will sometimes do like 4 or 5 layers depending on what it is and depending how dark I want my colors to be. Because just look over here. Look how dark those colors look. I can get all of those colors to look pretty close to that dark on the paper if you just do a ton of layers. So it just depends what you want. If you want it to be super dark, super, you know, contrasts of light and dark, just keep coming back, keep layering it on. But I would encourage you, don't go too dark too quickly because it's harder to lift it out. I always start light and then slowly build those layers, okay? And up here, I'm gonna work on this the base of this flower. I'm just gonna trace these leaves. Try not to get my try not to get my hand in that because it's wet. I kind of goofed. I should have done this part first, but I would typically just move my paper around, but I would like to keep the angle straight on for you guys. So I'm going to kind of create like a little round base here. As you can see, it's kind of similar to this. It's just that this flower's bloomed. And so then I'll use the clean brush to smooth out those lines, okay? And Jeannie, for the sake of time, I wonder if maybe I should just finish this flower and these leaves.
I would agree, because yeah, and then we could just go back in. We could run a little over, but we will lose some of the class because people have their schedules. But I think that would be a great idea to just give some completion to this one bud.
Exactly. Yes, there was somebody I was talking to who responded to or sent me a direct message about how they were going to take the class, but it was going to start at 1 a.m. for them. So I wonder if she's still here.
We do. We have people. I'm amazed with the scope and of people, the breadth and how far-reaching these art enthusiasts are all over the world. I think we did have someone from
So glad you're here.
Portugal, and I thought there was someone from Malaysia. So this is wow. Talk about outreach.
That might have been one of the girls I was talking to. I think she was from Malaysia.
That's right.
It's so wild that it's just night somewhere else. My day just started. All right, so I'm going to go all the way down here, just dropping that color into the stem. And feeling pretty good about where we're at up here. I will go ahead and do this leaf because I wanted to demonstrate one of the leaves that had the bend in it, how that leaf kind of folds in on itself. So using that same technique, dropping some strong color right along there. Don't touch this top part. Let's leave that light for right now. And then let's trace around the left edge, trace around the right edge. And then this is the fun part. So I'm going to grab as much color as I can, okay? I'm going to have to replenish this as I do the rest of it, but I'm going to drop a bunch of color right here because I'm going to, as you can see over here, drop a ton of color because I want to create that shadow. So it gives the impression of that leaf folding over and kind of creating a little bit of shade. All right, so then clean damp brush. Smooth those lines. Yeah, some people might find this part kind of tedious or monotonous, but I think it's so satisfying and kind of therapeutic.
I think you're giving this, I think you're getting really favorable replies and people are really enjoying, your technique and your presentation and your style. So it's resonating. So it's working. And they particularly like when you bring after you do the particular technique that you're bringing it up into the close view. So
I will.
Get a feel. So it's really bringing it to life, but it looks fantastic.
Right now, actually.
So relaxing to watch you.
Relaxing to do too. Okay. Quite different from the other flowers that are going the other way, aren't they? It's pretty amazing how just doing another layer of color can really add that extra little oomph, make it pop off the page. And that's just one layer. Could do more, but I think that actually feels pretty good. I am going to do another layer up at the top. I think I would like to make these petals just a bit darker. So cleaning off my brush, grabbing some more Alizarin Crimson, grabbing a little bit more Ultramarine, and the yellow ochre. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this part, just looking at it until it feels like the color that I want to bring over. This feels pretty similar to the swatch I did right here. So it's very heavy on Alizarin Crimson.
The size of the brushes that Shailene's going between, you're using a 3 and a 6.
Yes.
Predominantly a 6, it seems like today. And then in the details, you're going down to a 3.
Yes. But to be honest, sometimes I just use whatever brush is in my hands and I forget. I think the main thing is that I always have 2 brushes because I can use one for dropping color and then one for a cleaner brush to scrub that color and kind of manipulate it. So
we are going to probably go over in terms of the time because we want to continue a little bit more. And because everyone's so engaged with it right now. So if we do lose some people, as we said earlier, the videos are going to be available of this class in 24 hours from now. I posted in where you can find it on Michael's homepage. Up top right corner, there's a classes and events, and you can go there. Or you could also, what you'll get is a survey after the class. We'd love to hear from you. Like, we realize that Shailene is new to our team in terms, and this is a new trial for all of us, right? Because we've never been out in this doing Zoom classes, and we'd like to know what you would like to see from us go forward. So we do have some interesting things which Shailene I will bring in at the end of the class, which were lovely. Some other botanicals. I believe you had a poppy and a peony.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, they look fantastic. So she's going to share some of those things with you, give you some incentives, and let us know what's of interest to you, and we'll be able to come back with more classes.
Okay. So I'll show you this part just for right now. Nice. As I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, it needs more. Okay, so you can kind of get the idea though of that dark to light gradient. I feel like that might be a good place to just pause for a minute because I wanted to show you guys, as Jeannie was mentioning. So this is a sheet I did just like a couple of weeks back. I was using just entirely the pocket palette, and I just wanted to kind of experiment and see what kind of colors I could get, what kind of greens. I did some swatches of just the main 12 colors. And let's see, for this poppy, I did the same poppy twice. For this one, I did an underwash of cadmium yellow, and then I did a layer of cadmium red. So it kind of created this really orange, kind of bold poppy. And then this one over here was just the cadmium red. So you can see what a difference it makes when you do a different color underneath, you know, having that yellow underneath versus over here where there's no color underneath. And then over here, I just did, I don't even know what all those were. I was just experimenting, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's cool to see how many colors you can come up with such a limited palette like that. And then
the colors are coming up. You're blending them together, yet the pigment is very saturated and it's very clean, which gives you really soft.
You mean over here, or
yeah, how you're creating dimension.
Yes. So you'll notice that, yeah, some of these flowers are super light, and then some of them have those really dark kind of highlights in them. Some of the leaves are extremely light, and then some are very dark. And having that contrast of lights and darks, it really gives paintings so much more interest. So my big encouragement, go dark and keep some stuff light. And yeah, I grabbed just a couple other random things just to show you guys. I have some like YouTube tutorials on my channel if you guys want to go find some more of those. But let's see here. And
Shailene, you can keep going. We're fine. And how you could find Shailene is Shailene Louise. All her media contacts are in the attachment that you all received on the email before the class, and that did include this sketch. It has the color combinations, and as a follow-up, what we'll do is, you could obviously see that she penciled in the colors that she was using. But I said these are just guidance. The video will be available, but why don't we continue because people still want to stay along.
Cool.
And let's just continue on and see how much more we can get because everybody seems to be enjoying themselves.
I should try and see how fast I can go. No, I'm just kidding. I was telling Jeannie that if I was to just be like super focused and just, you know, just focus and paint, I could probably do this in like 20 minutes or so, but I get a lot slower when I'm all chatty.
Right, we'll just go to your pace because I'm sure people will stay along because we have varying degrees of skill that's joining us today.
Yeah.
And as we said, the video will be out there. I'm going to post, where we could find Shalene on social media, but we'd love to see your finished artworks. And I will put that in the feed as well. If you could make it with Michaels and also hashtag Winsor and Newton, just so we could get to see and enjoy the finished artworks. So I'll post that all out there. And as I said, there'll be an exit survey or a class survey that you'll receive probably in 24 hours. And we welcome the feedback and would like to see more of you joining us. So let us know what's of interest to you so we could create artwork together.
All right. So doing that same technique, just dropping my clean damp brush along the edge, giving it that kind of bubbled look. Over here, I definitely want my flowers to look like they're kind of like round. And I think that the best way to do that is to kind of drop some color right here, just along the base, because then it kind of looks like it's just slightly in shadow. Does that make sense? Like over here, I could probably add a bit more. And then that kind of gives that illusion of roundness. Okay. I remember I was taking an art class in high school, and my teacher explained to me like how to draw like a ball with pencils, and she showed me that like one side is going to be darker and then the other side is going to be lighter, and then that creates a round shape. And I remember it just blew my mind. I was like, yeah, that is how it works. I totally see it. So you can kind of see that even just right in here, having the dark on the bottom and then maintaining that slightly lighter center creates a kind of globe shape, slightly more round. I'm using my clean brush to smooth out that color. And a little bonus trick here. So along the back edge of these leaves, if you were to just draw a tiny little line like this and then smooth that line out, it's going to give it the impression of gently bending instead of just being like a crease. And that's just because we're creating that smooth gradient. And I'll hold this up for you in a moment. But you'll see how that just really softens that curve. See how that works? And then as my painting dries, I often just kind of look around and see if there's any spots where I have hard lines. Like right up here, didn't do a good job of smoothing out those lines. So they're just barely dried. So I'm still able to take my damp brush and smooth out those hard paint lines. Keep it all looking very soft and natural. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up these leaves and this stem. So doing the same technique I did here, just kind of tracing the bottom, adding a bit of dark colors just at the bottom of these leaves. Maybe go up into the leaves just a tiny bit. Then using my clean brush and smoothing out those lines, giving it a round look. Okay. And then my last leaf, I'm using my smaller brush here because this is a smaller leaf.
So Shalene, I think we've made significant progress. It looks really pretty.
Awesome.
A couple things I just want to tell everyone that in the beginning of the class, we mentioned the colors. There's a supply list. There was an email that was sent to you with the sketch to help you out with this. If you want to do another, try a different technique. Once again, this is just guidance. You can use other colors. As you can see from the palette and what Shalene just offered you, there's just a breadth and variety of color that you could create from those 12 colors. So, and that's all these products obviously are available at Michael's, and these are all Winsor Newton Cotman products in terms of the brush, the paint, and then it's Winsor Newton paper. And that is, watercolor paper is preferred because early on someone asked about other surfaces. But
Yeah.
this is really the preferred to get this effect.
Yes, it's hard to manipulate the color in the same way if you're not using watercolor paper. I have done it before. I've tried using like printer paper, sketching paper, and the paint doesn't move. Like watercolor paper is just designed to help that color to just flow, move wherever you need it to go. It's a world of difference. Yeah, I think you could probably use like a mixed media paper, but personally, I just stick to watercolor paper.
The watercolors gives you the best results. And once again, we said that if you would like, we'd be delighted and really would love to see your final creations. And I put that in the feed. It's hashtag make it with Michaels and hashtag Winsor Newton. And the survey will be coming out in about a day. And let us know how you felt about the class, about Shalene, the content, the technique, and what more you'd like to see from us.
Cool. I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop. Knowing me, I could just keep on going and keep working it and working it, but this feels like a really good place to stop. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a lot.
It does. Can you bring the picture up a little closer in view, just to give people like a slow, because if they do the video, they want to show. So the colors of the greens and then the top color of the reds, the pinks, I should say, and looks lovely.
Thank you.
Once again, I want to thank Shalene for bringing us this wonderful class. And I can speak from everyone. They've really enjoyed it, and it's been very relaxing to watch you as well. So once again, thanks for joining us, and we hope to have you back and give lots more classes.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.